Today we'll be taking on Pokemon Sapphire as a Hardcore Nuzlocke. The twist? We can only use Electric-type Pokemon. And I know what you're thinking, that sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? Well, if it's truly so simple of an idea, then somebody explain to me why this run has never been attempted even once before on YouTube? At least not that I can find, seriously, it's strange. This is also going to be my first Monotype Nuzlocke done outside of Emerald. Yeah, I realize we didn't jump very far, but anyway, today's run will be built off of the established rules we made in my previous Monotype attempts, and you can check those out for the full context using the links in the description down below. Otherwise, I'll kind of just be explaining as we go. Without any further ado, let's run with it. There are no electric-type starters in Hoenn, unfortunately. So as soon as we can, we box the Mud Skipper to grab our first actual encounter, Nuclear the Electabuzz. Nuclear comes from the Gather More Pokemon campaign list of event distributions, and we know how much I love utilizing that list for these runs. Event Pokemon are perfectly legal for any Monotype run, and so this crazy strong pickup becomes our Oldale Town encounter. Unfortunately, these event Pokemon are distributed with a different trainer ID from our own, so he won't obey us for long, but it is the best way to get a decent electric type this early in the game. The other legal method would be changing our starter to like Electrike or Minun or something, but those suck, so we won't be doing that. We use Electabuzz to beat up May and make our way into Petalburg. Speaking of Minun, this is the perfect place to pick up our next event Pokemon. We add Potential to the team. I'm not entirely sure the name fits him, but whatever, I don't make the rules. Oh, wait, yes I do. What? Our tag team duo of overall mediocre Sparkplugs is still enough to wade through Petalburg Woods, take down the Team Aqua Grunt, and barge our way into Rustboro City, home of the Rock-type gym featuring at least one ground type that my Pokemon cannot touch. And we have no wild electric-type Pokemon to encounter still. Damn. Well, that does make this city and Pokemart number 3, which means we are able to pick up one final event distribution before the gym. Pikachu, as we all know, has had a ton of different event distributions over the years, but only one fits our needs today. And that is the Yokohama Pikachu distribution, received at level 10, compatible with Ruby and Sapphire, and comes already equipped with the move Surf. That's right, we have a free and easy win against Roxanne with one simple Surfing Pikachu. The early game block is removed. Woohoo! Is what I would say. But even though we enter battle at the lowest possible level, since the max level a trade Pokemon will obey us without 2 badges is only 10, Roxanne's Geodude nets us enough boosted experience to level up, causing poor Electrical to no longer listen to our commands, and thus results in a clean sweep from Roxanne's Nose Pass when we can't break through him. Okay, so it may be entirely possible that the answer to this problem isn't quite as simple as that. Attempt 2 starts in much the same way, except this time during Roxanne's fight, I try to switch around Pokemon to spread out experience, which, to its credit, does work, but then we take too much damage on switching in, and our Pikachu falls after not being able to one-shot the Nose Pass. Not even a held Light Ball can help us with that, which means it's time to step back and try a new angle. If the issue we're having is over-leveling, causing our Pokemon to not obey, and this isn't like the Steel-type run where we have enough bulk to survive the lost turns, then we need to find a Pokemon that will actually listen to us in battle. Fortunately, there are still a few Pokemon that fit the bill, but we'll only get to pick one of them. And that is because out of all of our possible electric types that we could get in our Hoenn game, only one of them was distributed as an egg, and that Pokemon is Pichu. Problem is, by taking one of these eggs to hatch for ourselves, we cut ourselves entirely out of the Yokohama Pikachu, since we can't have 2 of the same Pokemon on the team thanks to Dupe's Claws. So no Surf and no Light Ball. But hey, I mean, we gotta try something, right? Choosing the right egg is important too, as each one comes with a different event move attached to them. Follow Me is largely useless, so we cross that one off. Side note, the Follow Me Pichu was the only actual event distribution available in all Gen 3 games. The rest of these were actually Ruby and Sapphire exclusive, which I thought was very interesting. But that leaves us with 3 potential options. Kind of. 2 of these eggs are the same with Teeter Dance, and the other one has Wish. Since all of them do come with Charm, we take the Wish Pichu egg to further play into the bulk that we're going to need to survive the fight. We hatch our egg into a beautiful baby Pichu, run around until it loves us, evolve it into a Pikachu, and stick it back on the squad for good. And then, we do have to do a small grinding spree. Electrical can take on Wurmple all by herself, and each one grants 1 HP EV. This will allow us to grind our HP stat as high as we possibly can, which I think was like almost 100 EVs, if my math was correct, adding just a bit more bulk to our rat before the rematch against Roxanne. Though as much as I love and appreciate the little war of attrition we have going on with her, just like my love life, it is of course doomed to fail. Quick Attack is just not enough to get through any rock type, especially not one with Defense Curl piloted by a trainer with access to potions. Attack drops from Charm also don't block critical hits, 2 of which in a row take down poor Electrical, and thus ends our 3rd attempt. Okay, so maybe I'm starting to see why this run hasn't been done before. And that is where the run stood, as a stalemate against Roxanne, as I left it for the night to ponder my place in life, and in the next morning woke up in a cold sweat with the answer in mind. No, not the answer to my place in life, I fear I may never learn that, but the solution to getting past Roxanne. Which, let's be honest, is a lot more important right now anyway. Underneath the section of moves that Pikachu can only learn from a prior evolution in Gen 3 was listed Surf as being learned from Pichu. But even that had the asterisk of only being learned through an event. But we just looked through every event Pichu listed for Generation 3 and none of them had Surf. Except we hadn't looked through every event Pichu for Generation 3. Not listed on the main event tab on Pichu's main Bulbapedia page, but instead under side games is the Pichu egg that you can obtain through Pokemon Box. Weirdly, if you go to Pichu's Gen 3 Learn Set just like I did for Pikachu, it is listed under the events tab there. Of course, if I had just scrolled down ever so slightly to look at in-game events, I would have seen it, but you know, hindsight is 20/20. If I hadn't thought this part interesting to include in the video, you wouldn't have even known that I tried those other events first, and would have thought me a genius from the start. Well, joke's on you, because I'm an idiot. If you'd like to support this idiot and his future idiotic ventures, please consider subscribing. It really means a lot. Okay, thank you, bye. Not only does this Pichu come with Surf, but all the Pokemon Box Pokemon are obtained as eggs, just like the previous event Pichu, making us the one and only original trainer after hatching it. And so we hatch another rat, evolve it into a bigger rat, take that rat into the gym, and just as I originally hoped we would be able to do, we take on Roxanne one final time, and this time consistently landed Surfs, grant us an easy win in just 3 turns. Whew, I had almost given up hope. Our next stop is Dewford Town, and can I just say, I had no idea Match Call was an exclusive feature to Emerald. I mean, wow, they really added one of the most dog shit additions to any Pokemon game ever, exclusively to the quote-unquote superior remake, huh? Just weird. Brawly is a relatively straightforward fight, Pikachu having Charm baits the AI into going for more bulk ups than it can realistically use, and Surf hits specially so we avoid the defense boost entirely. We are technically risking a critical hit against his Machop here, but given how early we are in the game and how easy Roxanne is now that we have an actual answer, it's a risk that I am okay with taking. With our second badge in hand, we deliver a letter, sail off to Slateport, talk to this guy in a boat shop who tells us to fuck off, and then meet my favorite person in all of Hoenn, the Energy Guru. He sells us vitamins to buff our Pokemon to extreme levels and max out their EVs before we have to progress much further. Yeah, vitamins max at 100 per stat this gen, but shh, it's okay, it's all we need right now. Since our trade Pokemon respect us enough now to listen to commands, Electabuzz makes a fearsome opponent once again, tearing down the 2 Aqua Grunts that decide to stand in way of my package delivery. And now that brings us to Route 110, where our very first encounter is Plusle. Now, Plusle is a weird case. I absolutely could have added this as an event as well, so I could guarantee an Electrike here, but we get Electrike on another route anyway, and I thought it would be kind of fun to leave it up to chance if we get the second rabbit or not. Mouse, rabbit, gerbil, whatever. They have rabbit ears. In fact, I only gave myself Minun because it's like a 2% encounter on this route in Sapphire, and I knew I wanted at least one of them. Well, funny how the world works. Point is, fate has blessed, or cursed us today with the double battle cheerleaders, and we will be using them. A little bit. Okay, not much. The rival fight against May just ahead has her leading off the fight with Wailmer, which obviously doesn't like taking a Thunder Punch to the face. Her Numel is easily wiped away by Surf, so we switch in Electrical to take care of business. This does lead to one small issue, which is that the following Grovyle starts going for Pursuit, which I do fortunately catch by not switching out right away and instead going for Thunder Wave, but yeah, we're gonna die. So we do the only thing we can. We have to stay in to avoid the double power for Pursuit, go for Charm to lower its attack, and realize I'm still dead to a boosted one anyway. Well, drat. There is technically an out, and it's all going to culminate on this next turn. We go for a second Charm, which cuts Grovyle's attack stat in half again, take the Pursuit, and sit at 6 HP. Now, Pokemon AI is a weird and finicky thing. You see, at this point, any one of Grovyle's moves will probably kill me. But there's a small chance that, given the last Pursuit only did 10 damage, it is currently arranged to kill me at all. With its attack stat so low, that makes Absorb its highest damaging move, so that may make it more likely to select that attack instead. Obviously, we're still dead to a boosted pursuit if we switch, but the AI doesn't know that right now. I don't think. I could be wrong. There's also the chance that, if all of its moves do kill me anyway, Grovyle could be in random AI range, basically meaning that since it sees a kill with every move, it could go for any one of them. Already, that puts the odds in my favor of Pursuit not being selected here. But on top of all of that, Grovyle is also paralyzed, meaning it just has a chance to not move at all as well. Long story short, this is the best turn to take to risk the switch, and we do successfully. Nuclear comes in on a low power Absorb, and then we easily clear through Maze Grovyle, allowing our dear Pikachu to live to fight another day. That clears our way into Mauville City, the perfect place to stock up on TMs at everyone's favorite gambling game corner, not to mention the HM for Rock Smash from the Rock Smash dude. We can also humiliate this kid in front of his uncle, and then make our way on to the next gym leader, Watson. Watson is a kindred spirit, also specializing in the electric type. But I'll admit, his team is much less cool in Sapphire than it is in Emerald. He leads off with a Magnemite, and we're pulling out something a little different, bringing in potential to start off the fight. Crazy thing in early gens, but you can actually paralyze electric types, so we go for Thunder Wave while Watson does the same. This means we will still outspeed since we are now both paralyzed, and so I make the big brain play and use Encore to lock him into the move. As I have been forced to learn the hard way recently, Encore works slightly differently depending on the generation, but at the very least we have 2 turns of peace while the Magnet continues to try and paralyze an already paralyzed Pokemon. This lets us start firing off powerful Thunderbolts thanks to the TM that we got in the game corner, and despite the resistance, it does massive damage to the physically defensive Steel type. A second turn crit takes it out before we're even at risk of taking damage. Voltorb comes out next, and I immediately go for Thunder Wave, but the ball just up and explodes turn 1. It isn't impossible to have happen, just unlikely, so it did catch me by surprise. But our rat is bulky enough to survive the hit, so hey, I'll take it. Next in is Magneton, and while it starts spamming shockwaves, our good paralysis luck finally catches up to us, freezing poor potential for 2 turns in a row. With our HP now at 20, we are forced to switch lest we get knocked out by an incoming Sonic Boom, so finally we bring in Nuclear. We first set up a light screen, but I quickly realized that was probably a mistake. Shockwave may have been more damage against Minun specifically, but Electabuzz's larger bulk would likely make Sonic Boom always the highest damaging attack anyway. Regardless, we stay in as long as possible, spamming Rock Smash, dropping the stack of magnets to half their health, and then bring in Kinetic. Kinetic is in the same position to do exactly what his twin did before him. Thunderwave the Magneton, get Thunderwaved himself, and then Encore the Magneton to repeat his mistake for eternity. Unfortunately, we then get locked into place for 2 turns, but hey, it's not like Watson can do anything either. And eventually we do land a hit that forces Watson to heal while we reset his pitiful Encore. We repeat our song and dance, resetting Encore as needed until Magneton finally falls and we crown ourselves king of the electric types. Okay, so we've got a long ways to go still, but like, just give me this one, okay? We crawl our way through the mountain, breathe in the sooty air, corner these 2 goons inside Meteor Falls having just robbed our poor professor, and thus follow our sense of justice as we are given no choice but to follow them. We reach the top of a disturbingly active volcano and corner Archie, leader of the team wanting to expand the sea as he wants to do something with molten lava. I'll admit, I'm a little confused by his logic, but he's got the spirit. However, I am significantly less confused by the fact that his weak-ass team is cleanly swept through by Nuclear's powerful Thunderbolt. This causes every water-loving goon to flee to their natural habitat. Some weird redhead thanks us for our help, and I'm just like, yeah man, I just work here. And now we're free to run back down the mountain towards our next objective. Time to take on Gym Leader Flannery. Like Watson before her, she is significantly easier to take on in this reality, coming at us with just 2 slugs and a tortoise, no items or herbs in sight. However, despite the level and type advantage, Electrical's non-stab Surf is just not quite enough to take out a Slugma in a single hit. And that is extremely unfortunate because the Sunny Day that comes out next will lower the power of all subsequent Surf attempts. Uh-oh. At least this prompts Flannery to heal, allowing a 2-hit KO from Thunderbolt to finally get us a kill in the battle, but man, that was a lot more effort than I thought it would take to take down a single slug. Oh, and look, there's another one. We stay in. I mean, how much damage can a flamethrower from this thing really do? Holy fuck, a lot, I suppose. On his last leg, Electrical does manage to pick up the 2nd KO, leaving us to face off against the formidable ace Torkoal that follows. So this thing is a real threat in Emerald. But in Sapphire, we just switch out to our Resonant Tank potential. and watch as Torkoal misses its first overheat entirely. We are now free to paralyze the tortoise with a Thunder Wave, and when overheat does actually land, it only does a little over half. Torkoal's special attack drops, and nothing. No white herb to resets its stats, nothing. We're done. We're free! We bring in Kinetic, pull off an Encore while Torkoal lands on Attract, then switch to Electrical and spam Surfs until Flannery's last Pokemon falls and the win is secured. 4 badges acquired. And that means there's only one man standing between me and opening up the rest of the region to explore. We crash through the gym, knock down every trainer to reach him, and finally confront the man himself, Father. We lead off the battle with Electrical against his Slacking. Pikachu outspeeds both of the Slacking on Norman's team, and Charm can cut their attack by 2 stages before they even get the chance to move. However, the lead Slacking also comes with 2 status moves, and boy does it love to use Yawn. So we get the Charm off for free while it makes us drowsy, and that gives us the free switch to Potential as it slacks around. Potential also outspeeds, so we get off a second Charm before the Sloth turns Ruthless, resulting in us only losing 20 HP from a Stab Facade. We follow up by dropping its attack one more time while it loafs around, and then switch out to Nuclear, who takes the -6 Facade as well as you would expect. Our Static ability even activates, which in most cases is actually not going to be great for us. You see, Facade is a move that doubles in power when the user is affected by a special condition, and Paralysis is just that. So there really isn't much I can do to mitigate the chance of those activating other than keeping the Slacking's attack as low as possible. At least Nuclear can proceed to fire off strong Thunderbolts, with Paralysis actually working with us, if you can believe it, and 2 hits force out Norman's potion. On the same turn, we land a super high roll, allowing us to take out Norman's first Pokemon before it can deal any further damage to us. Next up is Vigoroth, and honestly the best thing we can do is just brute force through this one. And that's part of the reason why we needed either Nuclear or Electrical to take out the previous Slacking. We avoid the critical hit on Slash, outspeed, and Vigoroth falls in just 2 Thunderbolts. Now for the real problem. Norman's final Slacking has both Focus Punch and Facade. Unfortunately, our HP is low enough that I don't know which one the king is going for, and he likely has a KO with either move. Point is, Nuclear is in danger, and he's one of our strongest Pokemon in the entire run, so we really can't afford to lose him now. We switch him out to bring in Kinetic. If this is Facade, there is a decent chance he lives. However, luck is not on our side, and Focus Punch lands the one-hit KO. With our Plusle falling, we bring in his twin, and Potential can land a Charm on Slacking's Loaf turn. The strategy now is, since Slacking doesn't have a kill with Facade, to attack on the turns that he might Focus Punch, and continue to drop its attack with Charm on the turns that it decides as better things to do. And this works perfectly, allowing Potential to absorb a Facade, break the concentration on a Focus Punch, and finally stand victorious over the defeated king. Minun wins us a 5th badge from Norman. And like I said, that opens up the entire rest of the region for us, now that we can use Surf, courtesy of Pikachu, to get to the other half of our homeland. Before we do though, Watson has a quest for us to go to New Mauville, and we happily agree to help him out. With just one tiny detail. We will not be running into any wild Pokemon here just yet. Trust me, it's an encounter routing thing, we just have to wait. We can spam Repel and are very careful not to touch more Pokeballs than we have to, as not to trigger a Voltorb fight, and make it to the end with no encounter in sight. What we are really here for is the Thunderstone, giving it to our Pikachu as a much needed boost in power to carry us through the next leg of our journey. Though I did actually forget to evolve him until after we cross the water into Route 118, where we also get to pick up our next encounter. With a 30% chance of Electrike and a 10% chance of Manectric, and absolutely no understanding of how that works with Static, we high roll ourselves into adding Radiant the Manectric straight onto the team. And then we evolve Electrical. We now find ourselves standing just outside of the Weather Institute, once again not raining, I legitimately have no idea why, and we storm inside to clear out Team Aqua and their gooning antics. Our level cap being only 33 does not bode entirely too well for our team that is already mostly there, but fortunately the new Blood Radiant is still more than enough to handle most of these fights by herself, tagging her out last minute against the admin's Mightyena only for safety reasons. And so with the day saved ever so quickly, we are free to move on, and the first thing we have to do involves fighting May just outside. Like, thanks for showing up late every time, why aren't you ever helping me out with these idiots? She leads off the fight with a Numel, which is very different from the Whalmer that Bulbapedia says she should be leading off with, but I digress. Thankfully, we were planning to lead off with Electrical anyway, since the Numel having Magnitude makes it too scary to try to switch into, but now we can just take care of it with powerful Surf right away. Electrical's newly evolved form shows its true power and easily sweeps through May's poor team of 3, sending her packing as we make our way into Fort Tree City. The gym here has me pretty confident, being a flying gym and all, but of course Winona has at least a few tricks up her sleeve, or 1. Her lead Swellow seems to be on a suicide mission, with Quick Attack paralyzing itself on our static before falling to Thunderbolt anyway. And then next comes in the dreaded Altaria. Not only is it not weak to Electric, being part Dragon type, but it also famously carries Earthquake. Fortunately, we are faster and can pull off a charm to cut its attack in half, and then easily take the hit. And a second one even, as we use Thunder Wave to paralyze this bird too. A Citrus Berry will keep us well above the threshold we need to be at to survive another Earthquake, and our Thunderbolt deals pretty decent damage, while the bird begins to dance. Uh-oh. We get off another charm to keep its attack low, forcing it to repeatedly Dragon Dance again and again while we get in as much damage as possible. We force out a potion and finally lower its health once more. Altaria then decides to finally land an attack, gets a critical hit on Dragon Breath, and Electrical survives with just 11 HP to close out the fight. Unfortunately for Winona, we have 3 other thunder-wielding behemoths in the back, and so bring in Nuclear to swiftly take out both her Skarmory and Pelipper, granting us a 6th badge. We head southeast just a bit to get ourselves into Lily Cove, and though I usually ignore her for a while, we decide to take on May early so I can grab a few more TMs from the mart. Considering that we just battled her though, the fight goes pretty much about the same. Except Grovyle deals a critical hit to Nuclear as I switch him in, so we actually let Potential take out her ace, which is arguably the most embarrassing thing that could happen, so damn, I don't blame her for ending her career as a trainer after this. And so we now have access to a ton of great TMs like Protect, Light Screen, Reflect, a bunch of other ones I can't use. Why'd I come here again? And now we've reached the point of the game where we need to detour from the actual goal to deal with story bullshit. We climb the pillars of Mount Chimney, nope, wrong place. We climb the pillars of Mount Pyre just like we did to the Weather Institute, clean up shop by taking out the trash that is Team Aqua, then do it again in Slateport, then do it again in Lily Cove. Yeah, this game is a bit repetitive. Now I remember why I took a break from Hoenn. But after Manectric decimates Admin Matt's entire team with 3 total Thunderbolts, we can raid Archie's office, and lo and behold, guarding the Master Ball in the center is our next encounter, meet Motion the Electrode, who we fortunately caught in just a single Ultra Ball because he definitely could have exploded. Woohoo! Now that we've caught Electrode, we can go back to New Mauville, which only has 2 possible wild encounters, 50% Magnemite and 50% Voltorb, and since Voltorb is now a dupes by our rules, we are guaranteed to catch Mechanical the Magnemite. Mossdeep City is a straight shot across the ocean from Lily Cove, and that's where another gym resides, so guess what? We're going! Fortunately, Tate and Liza only have 2 Pokemon in Sapphire for the double battle, and we have plenty of shenanigans to use against them. Motion is an adamant boy, so we pivot him into our resident speedy support bot, and that certainly comes in handy here when he can set up a Light Screen turn 1 right alongside Electrical, who can start the damage off with a super effective Surf that hits both Solrock and Lunatone for decent damage. Sadly, Motion finds himself on the receiving end of 2 Psychics, the first of which drops his special defense, so thank goodness for that screen, or else we'd already have a dead ball in our hands. Sheesh. Electrical is never really going to be in danger this fight as long as we give him the support he needs, and who better to support the main rat himself than Rabbit number 2. We bring in Potential. This is also the turn that the twins turn defensive, with Lunatone setting up a light screen of their own and Solrock lighting up the sun in the sky. Easy pickings for Potential's Encore. We lock the sun into constantly trying to light up the room and let Electrical thunderbolt his way through Lunatone's health, with Potential tanking hits on behalf of his bigger cousin. We keep Solrock incapacitated with Thunder Wave, charm the Lunatone for good measure, and when it does finally decide to attack, Encore the Hypnosis, it fires off into our Raichu to save him from taking damage while asleep, and fail at the second Encore into Solrock since I didn't realize that it failing Sunny Day meant I couldn't force it to repeat anymore, but oh well. Electrical finds the energy just in time to wake up and Thunderbolt KOs Lunatone since their light screen has now fallen, and all that leaves is one poor, paralyzed, low HP Solrock, which obviously follows the next turn to the sheer might of Raichu. Now, we do have, admittedly, one small issue. See, I went ahead and leveled the entire team up to the level cap for the next gym, completely forgetting that the 8th and final gym leader coming up has a level cap of 1 whole whopping level higher. So we're gonna need some help. Lucky for us, we can now dive underwater, and that gives us access to our last possible encounter, Chemical the Chinchou. We run quickly back to Mossdeep and add it to the team, evolve it into a beautiful lantern, and are careful to keep it a few levels under the cap so as to deal with any grunts that we are forced to face off with as we finally corner Team Aqua deep under the sea. We barge our way through the caverns and come face to face with Archie as he attempts to resurrect a sea god. You know, as one does. We lead off with Chemical, who served us well to clear out the mandatory fights up to this point, but the damage she can put out just isn't enough to clear this fight solo, as I forgot to add EVs to her. Fortunately, Manectric has a level buffer still, so we can break out Radiant to take the spotlight and fire Thunderbolt after Thunderbolt into Archie's poor team to take him down one final time. With the leader of Team Aqua defeated, some weird red guys show up and take us out of the cave. The rain is pouring, so what are we gonna do? That's right, send a child down into the deepest, darkest depths of the earth to fight off against that very same sea god and send it back to its slumber. Chemical makes for the perfect answer to Kyogre with its water typing, and after a solid jolt to the noggin, the day is saved and we are free to enter the final gym. Wallace has a pretty similar MO to Winona, a full team weak to Electric, and one that stands out by having Earthquake. So after Electrical takes out the lead Love Disc, Whiscash comes out next to take the mantle. But we can pull the exact same trick here by charming the fish twice to lower its attack to an unusable level, then switch in our most defensive and, sorry to say this Minun, expendable team member, Potential. But hey, Whiscash just opts for Rain Dance, and that is perfect for us to trap him in with Encore. We then swap ourselves safely out to Nuclear, who can Psychic the fish to death before it has the opportunity to hit back. And I mean, that does sound mean because it is, but it's still a better fate than every other Pokemon that follows, which is the electrical frying of each and every one. The smell of barbecue fills the air, and we are gifted our last gym badge and the ability to climb waterfalls. And thus we use this newfound ability to make our way into Evergrande City, mash through the Victory Road trainers, only get a little bit lost, I swear. And gotta say, Lantern really turned into a quick MVP against all these little nothing guys. The combination of Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Surf has a ton of great coverage that easily carries us through the gauntlet of trainers blocking our path. One such trainer is, of course, Wally, stopping us in our tracks right before the exit, so it is time to put him in his place. Lead Altaria? Man, I've got a better answer for this now. Ice Beam, bam. Roselia? Ice Beam, bam bam. Delcatty? Okay, we switch out to Mechanical. Magneton was a true standout star in our Steel-type run, but he really hasn't got a lot of mileage so far in this challenge when he just doesn't bring a lot of uniqueness to the table offensively. But he is still a powerhouse in his own right and proves that by one-shotting the cat, and the Magneton that comes out next, we are locked in with Magnet Pull, but that's not a problem for us, as Thunderbolt actually two-shots even through the resistance. And those defensive properties come into play well, reducing the damage we take ourselves from Thunderbolt, and allowing us to resist any incoming attacks from the Gardevoir that comes in next before that too falls. Sorry not sorry, Wally. I got a championship to win. But before we get to that, I gotta pop in here real quick and do my YouTuberly duties and ask, if you're liking the video, why not consider subscribing? I do my best to put out 1 to 2 Pokemon videos a month, and if that's content you enjoy, you might like having them pop up in your sub feed every now and then. It's also the best way to stay connected to my live streams if you're into that kind of thing, where I take on various other challenges, such as the Drayano Nuzlocke Gauntlet that we're currently 4 attempts into and doing decently. I would say decently. That was the last turn of Encore, I miscounted, no! Anyway, sorry to take up your time. Back to the video. The Pokemon League, where so many dreams are both made and crushed. We just hope we don't fall into the second category, I suppose. Up to this point, the game has been fairly straightforward, all things considered. But here, this is where things change. And we certainly aren't barging in without some kind of plan. At least a little bit of one. There's concepts of a plan. The first thing we have to do is a bit of backtracking, going to Fiery Path to grab the TM for Toxic, and the Abandoned Ship to grab one for Rain Dance. I've got the ideas, let's just make it work. Once we enter into the hall, there is no turning back. We assemble our team of electrifying comrades and stride in to face the first of the Elite Four, Sidney. We are rocking out with a Pokemon that has already proven themselves to be an all-star in the league, Mechanical, the Magneton. Mightyena is no match and falls to a single Thunderbolt. Don't worry about the rest of the moveset, we'll get to that later. Sharpedo should be much of the same story, but of course it outspeeds us, and Swagger Confusion forces Mechanical to hit themselves not just once, but twice, so we're already not off to the greatest start. That combined with Surf forces us to switch out, but hey, we've no shortage of good electric types, such as Chemical, who can resist Surf on the switch-in, tank a following Slash, and then take out the Shark. And funny enough, with Cacturne coming out next, we double up our kill count with a strong Ice Beam to take that one out as well before it has a chance to move. Surprisingly, we also outspeed Absol. Did not expect that one, but I did expect it to go for Swords Dance, so we easily get a 2-shot, and yeah, you can see why Sidney usually doesn't get much screen time. Shiftry does refuse to die in a single hit though, but Sidney slowly runs out of healing items and it too eventually falls. We are free to move on in the Pokemon League with no deaths. Phoebe done got Ghost, but thanks to Electrical, we can employ a strategy we've already used twice before in this run. You remember what it is? We are holding a Lumberry in case of Confuse Ray, but our Thunderbolt combined with Curse takes out Phoebe's lead Dusclops anyway. And I guess that works out for us because the next incoming Dusclops is really gonna want to confuse us itself, so we are free to pull off the charm. That's right, Phoebe's second Dusclops does indeed have Earthquake. We then switch out to Nuclear, who barely misses the 2-shot with Thunderbolt, and then the poor guy ends up confused himself. Oh well, this is as good a time as any to bring in Radiant. She KOs the ghosts, and then our beautiful doggo has all the power she needs to sweep through every last one of the frail spirits on her own. Next up is Glacia. We're leading off with potential this time. Can you believe he made it into the league? Okay, it's probably not actually all that surprising. He's got pretty much all the utility on the team. We trade light screens with the opposing Glalie, but wouldn't you know it, we're gonna make sure Glacia just keeps setting that up for a while, and that allows us to safely switch in Radiant, set up the rain, fire off a strong Thunder, and a following Thunderbolt to get the knockout. Seems excessive, sure, but we are having to break through a light screen after all. Glalie does unfortunately break from the Encore just before it falls to set up the Hail, but since the following two Pokemon are just Celio, we don't really need more than Bolt to take them out anyway. The next Glalie comes in, we tank an Ice Beam, set up the rain once more, and without a light screen, well, I hate to say it, buddy, but you are not taking a Thunder, and neither is Walrein. You're probably starting to notice, like I did, that Manectric is, pretty damn good. Turns out 105 special attack is more than serviceable. But that changes as we confront the last member of the Elite Four, Drake, because now it's Lantern's time to shine once again. Chemical do what Chemical does, outspeeding Drake's lead Shelgon and dispatching it with a quick and easy Ice Beam as a one-hit KO. And that's with just a 2x weakness. How do you think the rest of his poor team is gonna feel? The first Flygon that comes out is the only one that has a ground type move, but it's not Earthquake, it's Dig. So there's no downside to us staying in to see if it goes for a status move instead. And I mean, of course it does. The Sandstorm brews, the Ice Beam hits, the Dragonfly falls, the second Flygon lands a Sand Attack, and like, really? Sand Attack? In the Elite Four? Okay, buddy. But it does force us to miss the first Ice Beam, but you know, not the second. Altaria takes to the field next, but it can't do anything to us, so we are safe to risk the miss, do outspeed, and take down the bird as well. Solomon's, however, is gonna need a little bit of finagling. We switch ourselves out to Mechanical on the expected Dragon Claw, and this baits the monster into Flamethrower, which is all too easy for Potential to take and then Encore the Solomons into repeating. This allows an easy switch back to Chemical, who resists the hit, is no longer in danger of missing her attack, and another Ice Beam secures us the win. Now, finally, what this has all culminated to, what you are all waiting for, it is time to take on Champion Steven. And if you're at all familiar with this game, you know that Steven is a problem. Specifically, in this run, half of his team is equipped with Earthquake. I don't have a single resistance, immunity, or even neutrality to it. And one of those Pokemon is his goddamn citrus berry wielding Metagross. Fortunately, as I always do, I have a plan. We are leading off once again with Chemical. Steven's lead Skarmory has status moves, but is somehow outsped by our Lantern. The document I was using to calculate this fight listed Skarmory's speed as 107, and I checked, our Lantern is only 99 right now, thanks to the one perfect IV I'm pretty sure on the whole goddamn team. And I guess that means somebody's gonna need to update their docs because this boy must be a negative speed nature. Jeez. Well, anyway, like I said, it had status moves, so we were kind of betting on it just using spikes, but this does make our life easier. The bird falls to a single Thunderbolt. This then baits in Aggron, the first Earthquake user of the team, but that one we do know we outspeed. And we also know that we will kill it with just a single Surf. This is when I fully expect the AI to bring in Claydol next, but Metagross ends up showing his ugly head instead. Maybe the weakness ground has to water is overridden by the weakness electric has to ground? This actually made me realize that I do not know how AI logic works with dual typing, but no matter. We can handle that one later. So Metagross poses quite a few problems. For one, it's never going to have a reason not to click Earthquake. Encore is out of the picture. It also has the ability Clear Body. Charm is also out of the picture. We have two possible options. Let's just hope Plan A works, shall we? The first thing we need is a free switch, and we all know what that means in Nuzlocks. The Pokemon that made it all possible, Electrical the Raichu, I'm so sorry to put an end to your legacy like this. We needed her for the Dusclops Charm Gambit, but there's just nothing else she brings to the team in this fight that the others don't do better. We switch out to Chemical, bring in Electrical, and watch as her power fades and she falls. Our second death, but not without reason. So funny thing about Raichu, it has a special attack stat of only 90. Just a step above that though, we have Electabuzz, sitting at 95, just a smidgen higher. Nuclear comes out next. Another funny thing, every damage roll we currently hit into Steven's Metagross doesn't even do half of his HP. At most, about 48% without a crit. Ironically, that is the perfect range to not activate his Citrus Berry. And so we give the command. Nuclear fires off a Thunderbolt, it does not crit, and while Metagross tanks the hit, it retaliates with a super effective Earthquake and adds Nuclear to the waste. But he has fallen directly into my trap, you see. A crit would have activated the Citrus Berry, sure, but either roll keeps Metagross out of healing range from Steven's full restores. And we are working our way up the food chain. Remember what I said about Manectric? That's right, an even stronger 105 base special attack. We bring in Radiant, still outspeed, fire off another Thunderbolt, and down goes Steven's ace. It may have claimed 2 from our team, but it was the only way to ensure that we could take down his biggest threat without it wiping out the rest of us. We are through Steven's strongest Pokemon and half of his team, but the fight is far from over. Next in is Credilli. And let me tell you, I searched high and low for an answer to this thing. Literally. We switch out to Mechanical. For the record, Credilli only has 4 weaknesses, which I have memorized at this point, trying to find solutions to. Those are Fighting, Steel, Ice, and Bug. My best fighting move is Rock Smash, which, sucks. Neither Magneton nor anyone else on the team learns a decent Steel move this generation because they just kind of don't exist. Ice Beam is only on Lantern, and that's rich to bring out against the Grass type with Giga Drain, and no Electric type learns Signal Beam for like 3 generations from now. Sorry, this one was hard. Mechanical, though, does have access to a ton of other useful moves that we can use to try and stall this thing out. By setting up the Toxic, we ensure constant damage on every turn, just needing to reset it when Steven heals. Double Team is here to allow us to avoid hits and keep up the act for as many turns as possible without risking Credilli getting too many Omni Boosts from Ancient Power. And Rest will keep our health up in the fight to continue the process. It's foolproof until we end up missing more attacks than Credilli does, and hit ourselves in Confusion because Confuse Ray just never seems to miss. And we drop down to 29 HP while confused and miss a 3rd Toxic? What the fuck is happening? Well, we have too many evasion boosts to waste them, and I'm not switching out because this is the best chance Mechanical will ever have to survive anyway, so we go for Rest. We hit ourselves again, down to just 15 health. If we hit ourselves or Credilli lands an attack, it's lights out and we move to plan B. But against all odds, or I guess playing with all odds because this is what should have happened forever ago, Credilli misses the Giga Drain, Mechanical puts their heads together, breaks through Confusion, and Rest succeeds to put our health back up to full. We repeat this cycle, utilizing our moveset to do it over and over, max out our evasions, and even land a critical hit Thunderbolt that, in combination with Toxic, take down the plant that nobody else could. Next in is finally Claydol. Now this thing will kill us, and it does see that, so it's most likely to Earthquake. But it does also have Light Screen, which is a problem if we're trying to kill this with Surf later. It also obviously still has the chance to miss if it does attack, so no matter what, we kind of have to go for Toxic. We have no intention of switching out, as the best thing we can do is rack up as much damage as possible on the opponent and then give a safe switch out to Chemical once again. Without a screen and with only half its health remaining, Claydol does take out Magneton, but we bring in Lantern, and the doll is no match for one more Surf. And that is Steven's final Earthquaking Pokemon defeated. Our Maldo is his last Pokemon and kept in the back because, let's be honest, it can't do anything to us anyway. No amount of full restores can keep it alive against the watery onslaught, and eventually it too falls. With 3 Pokemon remaining, one being mine and of all things, Steven falls. Player defeated, Pokemon Sapphire. Thank you all so much for watching this video. As always, I had a ton of fun taking on a challenge that, for some reason, had just never been attempted before. Seems kind of like my MO at this point, huh? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, well, aren't you in luck? There's a whole playlist link in the description down below, so go ham. And if that's still not enough content for you, consider joining the channel as a member. For just $3 a month, you can support me in being able to continue doing what I love, while also gaining access to my members-only content, which includes breakdowns of some of my favorite videos, and even full series where I run through alternate takes on my previous Nuzlocks. Anyway, that marks off one more run from the Monotype spreadsheet, a list containing every Monotype run completed here on YouTube, and that is also linked down below so you can check out the other creators that have contributed to this community-wide project. All that being said, another challenge done means I will just have to catch y'all in the next run. See ya.